What's up, guys? Kelly McKay here, along with my buddy Pete Ramsey. We are here to talk HVAC business. How you doing, Pete?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit, several subjects before we started recording tonight, but one of the things that we touched on that I think needs to be touched on a little bit more. So I thought, we both thought it'd be a very good subject to talk about, at least for a little bit to get us started here, is one of the most important job roles and responsibilities in everyone's company that is overlooked, undervalued, underappreciated, sometimes underpaid. And that role is your CSR,
Amen.
the front person for the company. Like that role, I mean, that is the first interaction that anybody has with your company. How do you want your company to be portrayed, or how do you want your company to be perceived when somebody answers the phone? Is it, for me, like I'm guilty, and I'm sure Pete's got a story or two too, but I'll just tell you, like in the beginning, once the business started picking up some momentum and the phone started ringing a lot more, I'm so busy. I'm like, McKay's Heating Cooling, McKay's Heating Cooling, that was how I answered the phone. And I'm not saying you got to got to make some crazy, hi, this is Kelly with McKay's Heating and Cooling. How are you doing today? We're having a great day at McKay's. It wasn't like that. You don't have to be like that. But do you think that McKay's Heating and Cooling, and I would get irritated if they didn't answer fast enough, like McKay's Heating and Cooling, because I got work to do, right? So let's talk about that, Pete, as far as this role and the responsibility and how important it is to our fellow HVAC business owners out there.
I think, yeah, I get kind of short too back in the day. I mean, I never got to the point of what do you want? I didn't get that
Yeah, I
far,
didn't go that far. I
but
didn't
it
go
was
that
definitely
far.
my tonality, Ramsey,
Yes.
you know. And so, but in my defense, it was the 90s and I was very young and I had no business running a business. I just no, I wasn't ready. I did have business because we did okay ultimately, but fortunately we learned. But okay, so back to your point, Kelly. I don't get it. What's the deal on the CSR? Why is it so important? Um, and I think that we a lot of times that we are problem unaware. You know that you remember that one, Kelly, where there's different levels of awareness,
You
and you
don't know what you don't know.
yeah, and
Basically, another way to say it.
you really can't help somebody until they understand that they have a problem and what that problem is. You were talking about earlier a prospect who reached out with you who was bound and determined he knew what his problem was. He just needs more leads. And you picked that apart so easily, and you explained to me we're sharing the insights without even meeting the guy because we know not because we have a crystal ball, but because we've heard this over and over. We've lived this, right? And we understand how this stuff works. You as a business owner, because you've had a few successes, doesn't all of a sudden mean the heavens have opened up and you have all of this insight. The minute it's like riding a motorcycle, the minute you got all the confidence that you got this, you better watch it. I don't know if you rode motorcycles, but this time to step off and if you're not a little nervous out there and if you're not really checking yourself, you can really get hurt. As a
Yeah.
business owner, congratulations on your success. Guess what's coming next? Setbacks. And I remember moving from my difficult market into a lucrative market where people own expensive homes. They own their business. They had those expensive homes. They're making money hand over fist. did not do near the stuff that we did in order to get that business, right? In order to fight for that business and earn it and everything else. They were just in the right place at the right time. And no offense to the successful people out there who have had their success and, you know, have earned it. What's kind of frustrating is to hear somebody speak from easy street and not really having to go through the challenges. I know you went through it. You came out of a depressed market as well, and you had to learn. You did have to learn how to sell. You did have to learn how to market. You did have to know how to value that lead like it was really, really important. But these other guys, it's kind of like the day, McKay Heating, you don't care because they're just coming in so fast.
Yeah.
You're going to succeed regardless.
Yeah.
And so I succeeded. I built mine into a $20 million business, and you too, and everything else. And some of that is valid, but I'm telling you, a lot of that is, where did you set your business up? And were you smart enough to do the demographics to put yourself in that position?
So, yeah,
or was it?
you're going a little bit different direction than where we started, but this is a great topic.
Let me circle back.
Okay. Well, before we circle back, I just have to I just want to say, I acknowledge everything you just said, because you can take, I've said this for years at this point, you can take a mediocre leader, mediocre/poor leader, stick them in a great market, a booming, bustling, affluent market, and they'll do pretty well.
Yeah.
In this business. But if you stuck that same person in a market that's less populated, that is not booming, bustling, or the new craze that everyone's moving there, and they will fail miserably. So yeah. I wrote a post on this just the other day on social media, because comparison is the thief of joy. So a lot of times what you see on social media is you see people posting their success, which is great, good for them. That's awesome. But then the guy who lives in the town with only 1,500 people starts comparing himself or herself to this company who lives in a town of millions where it's hot all year round, or excessive heat. It happens there where that doesn't happen where their market is. You can't compare yourself to those things. So I'll just say that. But
yeah,
it's a great point.
So different scenarios.
Nobody talks about it. So
different scenarios lead to different results. A lot of people take a lot of credit for being in the right place at the right time, and I'm not here to knock that. Yes. But a lot of times when things are going good, we don't give attention to important things, and the CSR role is huge on that. I predict, and we were talking about this before, a time is coming where that particular role is going to probably be one of the most important roles in your business. And I'm going to give you an example as to why. As these leads become less and less abundant for replacements, for example, because people are tightening the wallets, I'll just fix it, I'll just hold off, let me think about it, and we have more and more people fighting over those leads. When they actually call your business, all of a sudden the importance of converting that into an appointment becomes escalated. And this is a baton race, right? You remember the relay race where they pass the baton? So your marketing has handed that baton through the CSR, and if they drop it, it's gone. But they have to take that, turn that into an appointment, and get that to your service department. They have to come in and deliver the service and actually win the customer over and get that authorization for the repair or whatever that direction that goes. And then you have to deliver and hopefully get the positive review, get the referrals, and get the relationship long term, so that so there's several steps to this. Anybody dropping the baton, it's over. And a lot of mistakes are made. That particular role, I'll illustrate it this way: $1,000 on a campaign. You spend $1,000, 2, 4, 6, 8, $1,000. We got 5 people respond to your ad. That's $200 per lead. And that happens. They call your phone number, and the CSR doesn't pick it up till about the fourth ring because I don't know, texting a boyfriend or doing nails or talking on the other line with a friend, whatever. 200, bam, just cost you $200 for the lead, plus the potential revenues that you lost that you'll never know what it was. Number two, they call and ask you a disqualifying question. Consumers are looking at the world through their perspective, their point of view, and they're looking at who do I call? How do I do a process of elimination and decide who do I do business with? So many of the questions that you get when they call you are designed to eliminate you, rule you out. And it's questions like, what do you charge for a 3-ton unit? What do you charge for Freon? How much for a diagnostic fee? So these are price eliminations. And your CSR doesn't know. Maybe they're just told we don't give prices over the phone. They're not prepared. Boom, another $200.
Some of them will say that. They'll literally say that. Oh, we don't give prices over the phone.
Yeah, we don't. You have to talk to the technician on that.
Yeah.
Versus, and there's a host of other questions. If you're monitoring your calls, you'll start to see habits forming. If you train your CSRs, and there's a lot going on psychologically. They're making a logical decision for an emotional problem, and we have to engage them emotionally at some point. And it's hard to do that right out the gate, but we can go a long ways by hiring the right personality who uses the right tonality and has the general script to follow, generally can hold a conversation and can communicate. And this role is your inside salesperson, just about. And if
not
he
just
or she,
about, I mean, they're going to be making sales throughout the week over the phone.
Good point. And
in addition to booking calls.
But on that incoming call, that person is just as important to the team as anybody else. The weakest link in the chain is the one that breaks, or the bottleneck in the process is where everything kind of chokes down and where people get out of your funnel, out of your sales funnel. And so this is huge. But here's the thing. You don't value that, Mr. Listener, until it becomes important. And as long as you got all that overage, it doesn't bother you. And by the time you figure it out, first of all, once you do figure it out, you start to realize how much money you've been blowing on unnecessary external advertising when you could have been doing a better job internally, having better processes in place, and winning a greater percentage of those prospects over into actual customers. And that means raising your game, being a professional, hiring the right people, hiring the right person with the right characteristics and the right values for that role. And so, that was my 2 cents on that, Kelly McKay.
That's a good 2 cents. And it's, I agree 100%. It's what I always share with people is that we need to add up all the revenue that we did and then divide it by the number of invoices that you just added up. And that's going to give you a pretty good idea of what each phone call is worth. And it's thousands of dollars. It's not just a couple hundred for the marketing you spent. It's thousands, quite possibly, unless you are horrible at converting calls and you don't sell equipment. Maybe you only do repairs or something, and then it might not cost you quite as much. But it costs you a lot not to book a call. But for somebody who is just starting out, we touched on it earlier. I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but it's you don't know what you don't know. And the level of importance, you don't give it, you don't even think it's important at this point in the game until you learn. But until you learn, it's just you just don't realize just how much money you're losing and leaving on the table. It's not just about, because people are saying like, I shared some of that conversation with Pete, and it's like, raise your prices, raise your price, raise your prices. Like, I'm sure Pete has a video on making sure to charge what you need to charge. I'm sure I've got some videos about, charging what you need to charge. That is important. It's highly important. But it's not just about how much you charge. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, I've had those conversations. I had one just earlier this week. You know, there was a pump cost $750. What would you charge? And
Yep.
this is a customer that is new. He's in his 50s. He's one hell of a service technician and one hell of a nice guy. He's a good man. And his
All of my clients are
preoccupation,
good.
yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
They're
He
good
has a hard
people.
time
Like, that's
charging,
why,
right?
yeah.
And so he says, how do you, how, first of all, how do you build the value? He was talking about that, but how do you,
Yeah.
how would you price this? He says, this guy, it was like $1,900 for a motor that costs $750 that costs a couple hours or whatever. And anyway, he said, there's no way I would charge that, blah, blah, blah. And so when we actually plugged his numbers into our pricing and we showed it what it actually cost him
Yeah.
to go out there, it was really eye-opening. I said, this is how you build value. First of all, you understand this is how you justify that price to yourself. It's because you know exactly what it costs you. I'm looking for something in the background here as we're talking because I wanted to share something else in it because Kelly, this is unscripted. I'm watching and I can't find it, but I'm going to go off of my memory here. I had done some research in my sales training for the residential change out. That's basically set up for that. And we get to the end, and it was basically overcoming objections. And there's a whole lot that leads up to that needs to take place, but we still need to be able to revisit stuff at that stage. And that's the category it is, overcome objections. So I'm flipping through Facebook, and Tommy Mello, static advertisement popped up for him, and he's on the right side. And on the left is, I think his name is Chris Voss. You know who he is? Remember that? I
Yeah,
can't
he's
remember the name of his
never split
book.
the difference.
Never split the difference. That's it. So, for those of you who do not know, Chris Voss was a hostage negotiator for whatever departments that would be. If that police is it police or federal level, whatever. But he's the guy that called in. Somebody's got a gun, they've got hostages, and he's got to talk them out of people getting, people's lives are at stake. And the psychology he puts into negotiating with this person is phenomenal. He'd give a little bit, and he'd ask for a little bit back, and he'd build up this goodwill and this whole thing. But once he got to a point, he could actually say when they would ask for something that he couldn't give, and this leaks over into heating and air. His answer would be, how can I do that? I mean, you said that you wanted, the system that we've selected. You said you wanted the way we put it in, where we pay our guys to do it at a top level using the finest materials and everything else. But yet you want us to hold a price to somebody who's cutting all those corners and don't have the same expenses. It's just not mathematically possible. How can I do that? I want to help you, but help me help.
Yeah.
How can I do that? So he would have that. So anyway, Tommy Mello is running a static image on there, and he is moving evidently. And I didn't look into it. I mean, he's a super nice guy, super bright guy, super successful guy. But I found it interesting, Kelly, that people, you and I know, we bring up training when it starts to be asked for a lot. And all of a sudden people are asking, how am I closing these deals? I can't get people to close. So he's bringing in the negotiation. This is a telltale of what we're seeing in the industry, that people are they're pulling back, and they're not as easy to sell as they used to be. And I thought that was an interesting observation. You can tell a lot by watching other people. And not that I'm following those guys, because I do not, although I admire many of them. There's some really good people out there. I'm just so busy with my own stuff, But what you thought about that, and if you had any thoughts, or maybe something to add to that, I don't know.
I remember taken some training with some Grant Cardone, like closing training. And I think one of his ways to to overcome that particular objection that he just flat would say, which is very similar to what you were saying, is I don't have anything else to give. He would just tell them, like, I don't have anything else to give. But then, of course, circling back, and you could say what you were going into, which is, here's what you talked about, what you said you wanted. I'm including that. You said that you didn't want me to cut corners, you know. So basically holding them accountable to the things that you've already talked about leading up to the end of the sale. But I don't know what to make of that because I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing guys I'm seeing clients of mine that are quadrupling their January this year. So I don't know. I think, and they're in all different markets. So I'm not going to say that it's not happening. I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say that when you provide a damn good service, then your odds go up for people saying yes, So, but I'm sure that I'm sure they've had some that they normally would have closed that have not closed, but they're still doing well. So I don't know what exactly is going on with others that are outside of my group, but for the most part, and I'm not sitting here trying to like brag or anything. I'm just saying that it's just not what I'm seeing. So, but I'll bet you're right. I'll bet there's a lot to that. I'll bet there's something behind there for sure.
Yeah.
I did a video a while back, not too terribly long ago, because I watched a video and I'm like, I like Tommy Mello. He's like, seems like a cool dude. And he came on our podcast when I was with the HVAC Uncensored podcast, maybe twice. I don't know. He's a cool dude. He's very smart.
Yeah.
He's learned a lot, because he's otherwise he wouldn't be able to grow his business the way he's grown it.
Yeah. You don't get that level being a dummy. No question. Yeah.
No, not at all. And he's very hungry and ambitious, which is awesome. However, and I'm not talking trash on Tommy, but sometimes
Always.
when we get that as big as Tommy is, he said something on a YouTube video because he was trying to ramp up his YouTube there for a little bit, and I just happened to catch it. I don't watch them all. I haven't listened to a podcast in seriously
Yeah, I know.
probably
I'm the same way.
18 months. I just haven't. But he said, if you don't start out with a good brand, you shouldn't even start a business. And that just rubbed me so the wrong way that I had to make a video about it. I didn't call his name out, but I'm calling it. I'm saying it now, but I'm not trying to pick a fight or anything. I'm just saying that that's not how he started.
Your turn, Tommy. Bring it, buddy.
That's not how he started. That's not how I started. It's not how Pete started. It's not how 99% 0.99% of all HVAC businesses don't start with some fancy brand. And to tell you, like, for the way I look at it is, if you had a puzzle of, I talked about this, I went live on our Facebook today, but yeah, if you had a 400-piece puzzle, would you try to start in the middle? Or would you start without flipping the pieces over first? And that's what you're saying when you're saying, like, let's do a brand first. Let's go spend 20 grand on a brand when we don't know how to run. We don't know how to answer the phone properly. We don't know how to capture those leads. Like, even if we had leads, we don't know how to capture them. We don't know how to follow up. We don't know how to do all of the stuff that needs to happen. We don't know how to run the service call properly or convert those service calls into sales. So we're missing all these pieces. And if you go spend all that money on a brand, you better have somebody like, when I started my business, I was so bad with my money that, I had to get a co-signer for my first van because my credit was so bad.
Yeah.
So, but if you've done a great job of saving money for the last 5 to 10 years, and then you're going to start a business with 150 grand or something, then I'm not going to say don't do something with your brand, but who does that? How many
I,
people, honestly, how many HVAC business owners start with 150, 200 grand in the bank? How many?
yeah,
I'm willing to bet it's less than 1%.
I had a thought on that, Kelly. So
Yeah.
I agree in that that was misspoken. And I also
And
am
maybe I took it out of
wondering,
context.
and
Maybe I took it out,
yeah,
but
maybe
that's
I'm
literally what he said. If you don't have a great brand, don't start a business. Maybe you
right.
shouldn't start a business.
No, I'm
And
not going to, yeah, I'm not going to take sides or anything like that. I'm just kind of pulling back and realizing that, okay, I know that some people, once they get to a certain status, they kind of lose contact with, the ground level, like asking a rich person what a gallon of milk costs, right? They don't know, right?
yeah,
What does a loaf of bread cost? Um, and sometimes that happens, but I think in Tommy's case, what I would take away from that, and I would phrase it very similarly. Um, if I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't start a business unless I had a killer brand and maybe even a customer base by buying some small company out, so I can at least have something to start on. Because I've come to know how important that is. But in the beginning, I didn't understand branding. I did. It's amazing to
yeah.
me how
That's
many
the
people.
thing is, if you were going to start over again, and I
Yeah,
agree,
we have all this experience, and now we do things differently.
I agree, yes.
Right.
But to the guy who's just ambitious, like I was when I was, you know, ready to go out on my own,
Yeah,
like you were,
he's got
like
to chart his
Tommy
own
was
path.
when he was young and he went out on his own and started
Yeah.
his own business.
Success
You,
comes through failures. You got to go out there and make the mistakes and figure this thing out.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. I agree.
So I'm just saying that to put that type of a wall up of like, man, I got to have 20 or 30 grand to go spend on a brand when I don't even have a customer yet,
Yeah.
like a real customer. I don't have a database. I don't even have like my QuickBooks yet. I don't have a CRM yet. I don't have all these things. A uniforms, and you're going to go spend money on a brand. So that's kind of how I took it, and that's why I just didn't agree. I just don't agree. I think
Well,
brand, okay. If you get everything else right and you provide great service, now I will say that you don't have to spend $20,000 to have a great brand when you're starting out. It might not be a fancy, but it can still look clean. It can still look nice. It can still have a great slogan. It can have all of those things.
so
And eventually, if you once you gain customers and you build up your bank account, then by all means go get a great brand. We did.
yeah.
We did. We did because at that point I realized how important it was. So I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm just saying that I don't want somebody who has the grit and the determination and the fortitude to step out on their own. I don't want that to stop anybody. So
No,
I'm
it's
here to tell you, if you're determined enough and you're not afraid to go talk to people, you can build a business and you don't have to start with that brand. So that's my 2 cents.
okay. So I got a couple of cents too, and I'm gonna run parallel with you, and then I'm gonna depart in another direction because I do have a different experience on that. That is more of a caveat, I think, than a difference of opinion. I began my business knowing that I was one heck of a service tech. I could fix anything, and I came from the refrigeration side, uh, you know, supermarket refrigeration, rack compressors, advanced computer systems. So residential was a breeze. I mean, it was easy, it really was. And then they started bringing inverters out, stuff like that. And so um, I knew that if I did great work, I would never go hungry, and it was true. But I wasn't earning the money that I really should have been. And
Right.
you don't earn the money that you should until the value is perceived. And unfortunately, many consumers see your level of quality through a different set of lenses than you and I, who understand this stuff, do. And they do need to see a level of professionalism and everything else. I would suggest that if you, it's like my son, he was working out of his car to start his business. And I'm going to pick on him because that's my boy and I love him and I'm pulling for him. We argue because I'm trying to save him. I'm trying to save him, but he's got to get out there and figure it out himself. But he did this right. Okay. I didn't agree with his brand strategy. And by the way, a brand without a strategy is just a pretty, you know, visual. Okay. Okay. You got a nice wrap. You got a nice van. Why should I do business with you? You're going to have a strategy. So he went out and had something that was given to him. His brother-in-law is a corporate level professional artist, and you know of him, Kelly, and you've seen the caliber of work he does. He goes out, he rolls this brand out, he starts taking pictures, he starts putting stuff on Facebook, he starts posting in Facebook, he optimizes website, he owns the search results in these different markets like this. And all of a sudden, bam, he's overwhelmed with work because he's got this professional image communicating the right message and he's able to respond. You may be the best option for your customer, but if you can't convince them of that, that's the number one problem. But why do that if they can already perceive that by seeing life through their filters of looking like a professional? Because professionals are going to look professional, right? They're going to talk professional. If you really know what you're doing, then you should fit that stereotype that I imagine Mr. Consumer who likes the high end stuff, right? So I'm saying that no, you don't need you get out there, and I'm agreeing with you, but with a caveat. If it were me and I didn't have the money, I'd go borrow it. I'd get me a used van. I'd borrow for that, and I'd wrap the hell out of it. I don't care if it costs, my wrap costs as much as the van. I would make sure that when they see me in a uniform to match, they're going, okay, this is going to cost me. These guys are next level, right? Just want to throw 2 cents in there as well, because I mean, it's all.
I get that, and I'm still going to agree to disagree.
Okay.
We can. I'm going to say that it's the way you show up and present yourself, the way you speak, the service level of service you provide, the uniforms that
Agreed.
you're wearing.
Agreed.
All of those things can overcome that fancy wrapped shit in the fucking driveway.
Well,
I'm just saying.
It could, and I guess it can, but why should it? It one should reinforce the other, right? And
ideally,
congruency.
yes, ideally,
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah, because well, I've seen that too, Kelly, and this is where you may be leaning towards when you're saying this. I've watched these guys throw a rap together, and then they don't have any process or anything, and wonder why they're not getting calls or they're not promoting their new message. You got to put your message out there. Look. This is not about equipment. It's not about the boxes that we put in. It is about the emotional feeling of life after you came into their world and put that system in. And when you can get on an emotional conversation with them, and it can be done, but we don't. We talk logical. You know, we got the new high efficiency. Hey, it's got that variable speed on there, right? We got an IEQ package on there. It's got the cleanest air. You know, we've got it reduces VOCs and particulate. And it's MERV 16, and photocatalytic oxidation and whatever. And the customer's going, shoo, shoo, shoo. It's got to get here. Yeah. And a cool rap, the artist that I use, he talked about, no, that logo won't work. We need something with more of an emotional connection. These guys understand. When you look at those puppy dog eyes on the puppy dog logo, silly cartoon thing that we kind of make fun of sometimes, people go, oh, and as he said, that's not the best rap. Okay, I liked yours better. HQ. Home quarter. I mean, HQ services, was it?
Service HQ.
Service HQ. I remember it was killer.
When this first started, and you started seeing raps everywhere, and it started gaining a lot of popularity, and I always thought, oh, these cartoon characters, they're kind of stupid. That's what I thought. And then what? Because a lot of them are cartoony. But then I heard something. It could have been a podcast, or we actually we interviewed on HVAC and Sensor Dan Antonelli on an episode.
Yeah, Dan's one of the best.
he was talking about, it might have been on that episode, I'm not sure, but he was talking about how like if I just picked out something like a Blue Jay, let's say, and I'm Blue Jay heating and
Yeah,
cooling.
yeah, I remember
Well,
you talking
that's
about
it's
that.
memorable. It's memorable, and you can own those search results for Blue Jay heating and cooling, because there's nobody else in your market that's going to be Blue Jay heating and cooling. You know what I mean? So that makes sense to me. And so I get the whole character and having, brand story. I 100%, I ever since I read Story Brand,
Yeah.
that
What's his
book,
name?
like I'm totally for that. And and also he talks about how the customer needs to be the hero, not the company.
Yeah.
And that's just
Hero's
what
Journey.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hero's journey. So I get all of that for marketing purposes and stuff like that. And by all means, you could have even a white van. If you were, let's say, I'm just going to run with this. If you were Blue Jay heating and cooling, I'm not discounting wraps at all. What I'm saying is, if I was Blue Jay heating and cooling, I had a plain white van with a giant Blue Jay sticker on it, it's still going to stick out. It's still going to make a difference. It can still look clean. It can still look professional. And then eventually I can get that fancy brand and get the whole thing wrapped. And I'm just saying, if you needed to start on a budget, then you could totally do it. And um, yeah, if I ever open an HVAC business again, I'm going to do that just because. Even though
Well,
I could say, yeah, I'm gonna put together this nice brand. No, I'm gonna build it first with less money, just because I know I could do it, and I know the people who have the ambition and the determination to do it can do it as well. So, but I get it. I get it. You're setting. Go
many,
ahead.
many, many years ago, I went down to Orlando, took my kids down. We went to the Universal Studios and
Yeah.
Epcot and all that stuff. And we were at a water fountain, and I hear somebody call my name, and I turn around, and sitting on the water fountain was a couple, and it was a guy and a gal that I went to high school with. We were the same year, and we were all friends. Well, they ended up getting married later in life, and they were a couple, and we're catching up there and everything else. And it always made me wonder how many places have you ever been? And there's people that walking around, but you never really notice each other because there's just too many. There's just too many other people out there. And if we could see each other, we definitely want to hook up and talk because we got history. We got to catch up. So you and your ideal customer are kind of out there going by each other. If you can't peacock a little bit and get them to look at you, they're not going to call you. And that's that little piece there. Now, the way you do it, like you said, was it Blue Jay? It
Yeah.
coincidentally, we're working with a guy now, and his is, I don't want to give it away, but uh, no, I'm not going to say it. It's a similar name
Sure.
with a different animal and everything else because I don't want to mess that up because
Yeah, that's
I don't think
fine.
he's bought
Go
his
ahead.
.com or anything like that. But anyway,
Let's just
uh,
call it a panda. It's a panda.
yeah, the pink panda, and so
Okay.
something that people look, I got one customer's temp services. I got another one that's temp systems and zero sub-zero great guy temperature control and comfort solutions and all those words of just in my mind just dude, I was a territory manager and I would forget my customers names because they all just sounded alike, especially the acronym.
Yeah.
But then you
Yeah.
got somebody that comes up with the pink panda bear,
Pink
or
panda. Yeah.
or I don't know if I do that one, but something, so that in of itself is memorable, easy to remember, hard to forget.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and like repetition of sound, we talked about that. And like air repair, right? Or air care and repair, or Coca-Cola, Bed and Bath and Beyond,
People
all that
love
stuff.
alliterations. People love
Well,
alliterations.
yeah,
So
it's
it's
the
because it makes it memorable.
reticular activator. That's that where that song gets stuck in your head. You can't forget it. That's where
Yeah.
it lingers in there. And so you remember it. And so that's a great strategy, but that's not the only strategy. The point is, they're not going to appreciate you and love you until you get the stand on their front porch, somehow. And so that attraction,
Right.
that's what we're looking for on that. So then, and this is, I know you and I share this passion. Then we really lay it to them where we get this wonderful service, and not just on the equipment. The equipment loves us already, but we make the customer love us too. And those are the processes that an actual relationship is founded from. We come through this stressful situation. We came together. We have shared values. We came out together, and we're friends now. And we can lean on each other. We can depend on each other. Those are just part of it. And in the story brand, I mean, I love that. But I was reading somewhere where your story brand and all your accolades, and we're a winning dealer here, and here's a picture of our trophies and our licenses and all that other stuff. But when you're at the kitchen table, they really don't want to hear your story. That's what got them. At this point, I need my emotions taken care of, and you're speaking to me logically, and I'm not buying it, and so I need to think about it. We'll let you know. We promise. We'll let you know. We just need to sleep on this.
Yeah. I think it's still important to ask the question, how'd you hear about us, or are you familiar with our company? But we've spent literally like less than 100 and less than 2 minutes talking about our company, and then we moved on to like what's important. But I
stability
still
is
think like when it comes to like awards and things like that,
like all that stuff's important, and it has its
it
place.
is
I'm just
important. Yeah.
saying there's a point, and it's at the sales process where
Yeah.
I've, I remember being a nobody and getting the work and the trust from people away from these big companies. And it was really about that connection, that emotion that we had, and that's why these people with certain personalities are very good at sales. But I think, in fact, I know sales has evolved, that those old hard press, want to think about it. Well, what is it you need to think about? Is it this? Is it this? What can, maybe I can answer that question today, and push, 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 push. So once their defenses go up, pushing harder is not really going to help you unless that's the type of person that you can influence or pressure into buy from you. And then they got buyer's remorse, or they're resentful.
Sure.
It's transitioned away from that type of sales. And the more powerful one is called consultative sales, where we're here to solve problems. We're here to help you. Okay. So, but we're still in our analytics until we combine that with the what we've learned from the psychology of all this stuff, NLP, and there's some great teachers out there. How do we communicate emotionally and become really problem locators and solvers? They don't know what you know. They don't know the humidity problems that system is going to charge, or what have you. They don't know the airflow problems are going to have to go back with that old duct system. They don't know that the return's undersized, or that it's misapplied, or all the different things, the noise levels, all these different things that until you bring it up to them, and that requires getting them to drop that barrier, open up, and actually have a conversation so that you can discover these things together.
And yes, but in order for that conversation ever take place, that information has to be collected. So we have to go below the surface level. We can't just go in and just look at the BTUs of the furnace.
Yes, exactly.
And take a couple pictures and call it a day. And that's mostly what people are doing.
That's what. Yeah, you walk in the front door and they go, yeah, the equipment's right over there, because they think you're going to be like everybody else and run and start measuring equipment. Dude, if that makes you an order taker. There's nothing special about you. You go measure up and stick something right back in there that may be screwed up. Nobody ever did a load calculation. They didn't check the static pressure. They don't know what the airflow is like. They never asked the customer, are you comfortable? Is there hot spots, cold spots? Is it dry? How's your utility bills? What about the noise levels? What about, and even things like, they'll come back and bite them later. Are you going to sell the house someday? You may want to have that properly permitted, a permit pulled, properly inspected, and written off, versus it holding up the sale of your house one day because work was done and it never was permitted. unpermitted work, and possibly an unlicensed contract. Now you got this to deal with. So hindsight's 2020, but there's a lot of different stuff that I'm sorry, we're going off on
Yeah,
a
and
tangent on
then
this.
because so many people are in and out in 15 or 30 minutes, and they don't take the time to go through all this and have these conversations and ask these questions, they don't even really know what the customer wants, or what they or
Amen.
what they
Amen.
what they desire or need. You just have no idea. So it's not like a customized quote anymore at that point.
No,
It's
and
literally you're taking an order, and then, and most of them, they go back to the shop and they email the person the bid. Drives me crazy.
yeah.
So it
But
drives me absolute
but
crazy.
a
So
step a step beyond, you, the consultant, comfort consultant, don't know what they need until they tell you, but they don't know what to tell you until you know how to ask and allow them to discover, oh, I didn't think about that. That's a good, and you give them enough aha moments, and all of a sudden you're standing out. The competition's kind of fading to the background. Yeah,
and for
you're
somebody
spot
who's
on.
yeah, for somebody who's struggling, because that was once that was me at one point.
Oh, me
We did
too.
that. I
Amen.
mean, we
That's how
just
we know.
learned. Yeah, that's exactly
Absolutely.
how we know. That's why this is all relevant to how we started this entire conversation about you don't know what you don't know, but you start to learn, and you start to also learn that it is about the customer. It's not about you. So stop making it about you. It's not about price. I'm
Ooh.
telling you, it's not about price, because we sold jobs all the time that were $2,000, $2,500 more. But because we were providing so much more service, it was well worth it to the customer. They chose us over somebody else because somebody else didn't talk about how the duct system was 800 CFM short, and how that system's only going to last 7 or 8 years, just like the one that's being ripped out, versus our system, it's going to last a long time. So you have to go below the surface level. You can't just go in, but so many people do it. That's why a lot of times companies, as the and you see it, the most successful companies do have comfort consultants, and the reason for that is that technicians, there is a certain stage where you're probably going to have selling techs. And I know some big companies that are still have selling techs, but a good portion of that sale is still handed over to some sales manager, or somebody that's over the department, or something. It's not just the techs handling it all the time, because techs, a lot of times, unless they're in one of those markets, here's another thing, like
Yeah.
like Pete was saying, where it's just so damn good
Oh, yeah.
that they don't have to.
Nope.
They literally don't have to go any extra miles to get the sale and to do, 18 change outs a day. But if that's not you, and you don't live in a market like that,
Or at that time in history,
or you haven't built up a company, because it takes time to collect people,
you don't have the capacity.
you don't have the capacity,
Yeah, timing,
then yeah, there's different models of business.
different
Think it,
situations,
yeah,
scenarios, conditions.
exactly.
Um,
Ideally, every business, I'm not going to, I mean, ideally, every business should strive to be like a McDonald's or a Walmart. The problem is when we get started in business, you cannot be like the lowest price competitor. You can't. You simply cannot. You do not have the capacity to do as many jobs as it takes to sustain the business. Where McDonald's, whatever, you remember those signs they used to have all the time? Like, I'm sure it's way down now compared to what it was, but it was
oh,
like
how
10
many
billion sold or
birds?
something
Yeah,
like that each
birds. Yeah,
each day or something. Like, if you were selling
yeah, about that.
10,000 run capacitors a day, like, you could be the cheapest provider in your market and you'll do fine. Just like Amazon. Amazon may only make a couple pennies off of some of the sales that they make each and every day. But when you got millions and millions of people making those transactions, millions and millions of pennies add up. But you're not that person. You're not that You're not that Walmart or Aldi's. You can't do the volume to sustain that. And why should somebody come work for you anyways?
That's a great question.
God, that's another thing that drives me crazy with
Hey,
the conversation that we started off talking about.
and let me revisit that while you're on that.
Yeah.
Same reasons that the high end customers want to do business with you are the same reasons that the high end technicians, employees want to come work for you. It's the same because they're consumers too, right? This is about raising your standards, about actually being the best, not just saying I'm the best. Everybody says they're the best. Everybody boasts of their quality and everything else. Talk to your competition. They think they do better work than you do. Maybe they do. I don't know. But, at some point, you have to really put yourself out there and say, no, we're gonna do the best, and we're gonna be able to measure it somehow. And I love Kelly's mindset on that. Because that's really what the whole thing should be built on anyway. I mean, we've got the brand, we got to look the role and everything else, but fundamentally, it comes down to you give a damn good service. You just take care of your customers and you do it right. But everything else is being able to communicate that so that people can see it. If you're the best kept secret in the world, that you're not making any money doing that. But if you're, if you're the best deal and people are talking about you, that's when you can start to gain some
I talk
momentum.
about this on the challenge too. I mean, it's one of my examples. Like if I had a Lamborghini for sale on Facebook of all places, Facebook Marketplace, and I put it for sale for $25,000 and it only had 10,000 miles on it, what's the first thing people are going to say? I got a Lamborghini. It's got 10,000 miles. I'm selling it for $25,000. It's in
What's wrong
perfect
with it?
condition.
Yeah,
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? So a lot of the reason why we don't do what we need to do in the business is also it comes down. That's why everybody says like I had to get out of my own way,
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah.
it's a mindset. You know, at this point, it's almost cliche because everybody says it, but it's true. It is true. But when you were talking about earlier, like being a pushy salesman,
Sure.
I thought about, I'm not saying be a pushy salesman, but when you feel like you deliver a better service and you know that you're not going to screw these people over because you believe in what you do and you do good work and you stand behind your work and you take care of your warranties like you said you were, and you're going to answer the phone when they call you on Christmas Eve, and you're going to go fix it, or you're going to have your team go fix it. Like when you do all those things and they're getting multiple bids, and you know that there's competitors out there, you've already went to some of their past customers' homes to fix all their crap because they didn't want them back in their house anymore. When you know that, then I'm not saying be pushy, but at the same time, you got to believe with so much commitment and conviction when you talk to that customer that you are the right choice. And the customer's going to feel that from you. And so it's kind of, your, I think it was to sell or be sold when I first learned this concept. And it was like, somebody's getting sold. Either you're getting sold or they're getting sold. That sounds harsh, but if they have to do something and they're only giving you excuses as to why, there's something you haven't uncovered. So they don't feel like there's the value is there. They don't feel like they're getting everything they want, or maybe somebody came before you. And like I said earlier, and maybe that's the person who picked out all these other things and you're not saying anything about those because you're only looking at a surface level. But I guess my main point is that when you believe and you know that what you do is better than your competition, and you know that you care more than your competition, then it is kind of your obligation to do everything within your power to help the customer make the right decision. It would be the same if you were in a doctor's office and the doctor found something horrible And you're sitting there and I'm like, Pete, you're going to have a heart attack, man. Like your heart is like thumping out of your chest. And then you sat there and started arguing with me and said, hey, no, 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 doc, I'm okay. I don't think I need to go. How hard am I going to fight as your doctor? I don't want to see you die sitting here in my office. I'm going to fight pretty hard to help you understand that this is serious and it needs to be handled and taken care of. And I don't have to be pushy necessarily. I don't have to be but I have to be a professional. Like you said. That's what I've been saying for years. Like, be the professional.
Well, and then you have to evolve your skill set. I think it was Tony Robbins that said this years ago that, if you keep having, these challenges within your business, if it's selling or marketing, it's because you haven't acquired the skill set necessary to be successful. And so even if you're pretty good at sales and you're pretty good at winning people over, and we've all had those customers that just love us. They never question. They write that check, and we like, man, I wish I had more like that. For whatever reasons, the start a line, and you got into their home, and they got to experience your wonderfulness, your greatness, as I call it, right? And Kelly talks about that ad nauseum. Just how to do that and everything else, as do I. But we got to get that opportunity as well, and so that's another skill set. The skill set of attracting the right kind of people for the right reasons, and then when we come in, the skill set of taking those walls that are erected and getting those down and setting them aside and actually having a real conversation and building trust. And so you're periodically going through these routines, and these are skill sets that can be developed. I mean, there's all these strategies on sales, and I know you've read a ton of them. You probably read more than I have. I really got into, Tony Robbins is the one who started me with the psychology, using neuro-linguistic programming, but then on the emotional side as well. And on the one side, you've got all the experts saying you do this to sell, and this, but all the psychologists are saying, well, this is what makes people make decisions. It's these emotional triggers. And so when we kind of understand that, and we can put a process together that recognizes both, now you've got something that you're cooking with that gets really, really hot. So
Yeah,
anyway.
but I mean, still how you deliver it,
Yeah,
how you deliver it, the questions you ask, the way you've presented yourself all the way up to this point where you're actually standing in front of the customer or sitting at the kitchen table and you get to answer those questions, all
right,
makes a difference.
right,
They're you're being judged. I think it was
all the time.
the Wolf of Wall Street, one of his books. He's like, it's like 0.4 seconds. They're judging you. Like, as soon as they look at you, they're judging you. So
Give them something handsome to judge. You know what I'm saying?
give them something to, yeah, give them something to judge. Absolutely. Make that good first impression. It's so important.
And build upon that. Well spoken, good vocabulary, processes, organization, structure. Wow, the other companies do that. Wow, the other companies never mention that. You just but in order to get in and have that conversation, you got to open that closed door. And what you're going to find is a series of doors before finally you're in a room where, we're all just friends here. Let's talk about this thing and see what we can do. And it's about trust. It boils down to not just moral trust. They may trust that you think you're as good as you think you are, but they may not believe it. Or they may trust that, man, this guy really knows what he's stuff. He knows his stuff. He's really good at what he does, but I don't trust him. I think he's going to try to sell me something I don't want, And so there's a lot of moving parts. We're going to be doing some training on that. I'd love to work with you on some of this stuff, Kelly, because I'd love your insights as well. But we're putting together a program. I know you have a program, but I've revamped mine, and that's that particular area is going to be darn near as important as the CSR.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got
And
a program that's being built right now also because here's the thing, everything that we talked about today is like, because I didn't learn it as quickly as I should, because I found myself in the weeds, or like I say, digging
Yeah.
the ditch. I'm so far down in the ditch, I can't even see where I'm at anymore because I was doing that thing until it got so bad that I didn't have a choice. I had to stop and like sit
It
in silence for a moment and just think, just think about what I'm doing and how it's not working.
That's not easy to do when all that pressure sitting on you. I get that call. I know you do, Kelly, too, where if I don't do something, I'm gonna have to close doors. I'm at this point. I'm like, man, we should have been
Yes,
talking a
yes.
long time ago.
That that's what I'm talking about. The program that we're currently building. I mean, we're going to go into phones and sales to service call process.
Yeah.
But it's what do you do? It's the no slow season playbook's what we're calling it. But it's what do you do? Because I've got a section of training there because I found myself in this. I know what I did. Is what do you do when like you're in trouble? Financially you're in trouble, you don't know what to do. Well, we know what to do because I've found myself in financial trouble a couple of times,
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
no
not
fun.
fun. It's not a fun place to live. But
Yeah. Well, and
i,
that's
I
what
want to
it's,
get that out by I want to we want to get that done by the end of next month, because
yeah.
February, March, April, those were the slower
Let's
times in our
let's do
business.
this on future podcasts. Maybe have a
Yeah.
little list and announce some of the stuff that you're doing and with dates, and I'll do the same. I'm doing a new financials class. I think I shared a little bit about with that. I just went over uh, the person that I've got writing the back end with all the math and stuff. It's pretty killer. It's pretty killer. So I'm excited about that. But hey, guys, all this is important, but trust us. Trust trust the success people out there and the winners out there. But you all, if you can trust anything, it's the people who have succeeded against adversity. Those are the ones that they earn their stripes and they know what the heck they're talking about. I know Kelly's one of those. I know in my market that's
Well,
the
without
ones
taking
too.
massive loans or selling part of your
Right.
company away, without selling part of your company away
Yeah.
and giving up your equity, without taking massive loans
Right.
on and all that extra stress, you know, without screwing people over along your journey. Let's just call a spade because there's people out there doing that
Yes.
who are in the same space that we are, who
Yeah. Oh yeah.
are burning bridges as we speak,
Yeah. Because
burning
once you do
bridges
that,
in the industry.
the whole the expression when you burn a bridge, once you cross it, you can't come back across there. Once you've lost your reputation in your market with your customers, you don't get that back very easily, and you have to rebuild, from nothing. So Kelly knows what he's talking about. So does Pete. We share this stuff for free as much as we can on this platform, and in other ways on his platform and on mine. Take it, but test it. And I promise you, as this thing tightens up, you're going to be tempted to drop your price, and you may have to. But before you do that, you probably need to revisit some of this stuff and see if something's not operating as efficiently as it could. Maybe there's something going on in your process or lack thereof. But your competition is going to start dropping their prices. They already have on some of the
I've
mastermind
made that
groups.
mistake personally too,
Yeah.
and it makes things worse. So
Well,
just
it
I
certainly
just
does. But if customers have tighter and tighter budgets, then we have to get more and more flexible on how we uh, we serve those needs, but yet we serve our own at the same time. How could that possible? Well, it's possible. You just have to approach it a little differently. And
hmm
but it doesn't mean you walk away from your high end sales. You got to keep that. That's what keeps you going. But and again, depends on your strategy and what you want to focus on. I mean, we all want the best, but unfortunately, if we stick our chest out and believe in ourselves and our customers just don't, we can lose customer after customer after customer. At some point, we got to get the skill set to allow them to see just how great you really are.
yeah,
And I know most people that listen to this stuff, are good people. It's very rare that somebody
absolutely,
calls me up. I don't know
absolutely.
if you're the same way, Kelly. That they're just a bad apple. Most everybody I'm dealing with, they're
I'm going to say 2 to 3 people out of probably 80 that I've spoke to just in the last uh 14 to 16 months.
And I guarantee those
And
two,
I hate to even say they're bad apples. It was just their attitudes were
yeah.
bad.
Well, you may not be a good fit, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, birds of a feather, people who listen to you, people, I reached out to Kelly. I love Kelly. I said, man, I like this guy. He's legit. He's for real. That's why we're talking today. I recognize somebody like me who's been there and he's got the scars and everything else. And those of you guys listening probably are having similar connections, or certainly matching similar values. But anyway, that's the way the world works.
Yeah.
But,
Um,
but I think we went over our 45 minutes again.
yeah, I think we did too.
Yeah, I'll blame you on that one.
Yeah.
You and your
My fault.
CSR talk.
So
Yeah,
yeah, most almost everybody out there who's listening still at this point, I'm gonna just give it to you on a silver platter. You don't need more leads. Chances are you do not need more leads. You still, if your phone rings at all, you probably don't need more leads at this point if you're struggling. There's just lots of different components of the business that have to be working, functioning properly. Otherwise, you waste a bunch of money on marketing. I mean, I just talked to one of my clients this week. He's spending $3,500, and he's in a place like he's doing very well. But 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, like he spends on marketing a month.
yeah, that's pretty
And
common.
that's not a ton, but that's just with one vendor.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
it
expenses are part of doing business, but just make sure it's
is.
possible. It's an investment that yields a return, and
Absolutely.
that's what it's
Absolutely.
all about. Man, great job, Kelly McKay,
Thanks,
as
Pete. Good talking
always.
to you, man. Yeah.
So you
You got me
started
riled up there for a moment with
good,
your
good.
fancy brand talk.
Yeah, we like our branding, but that's cool. One complements the other. One without the other is worse off. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, anyway, good stuff. I would close out, but you started up, man. I'll let you close this out, then I'll hit the.
I'm just gonna repeat what Pete said. Like, I hope that you'll take some of what we've said to heart and actually do something with it. Sit and think about it. I'm currently reading um one of I can't even think of the author's name now. Put me on the spot here. But he wrote The Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy. And the one that I'm reading right now is about like silence and how hard it is for people to just stop and think and just sit in silence. I actually, I don't know if you got your planner, Pete, you were going to order, but
I canceled it. It was on back order. I got to order again.
for my planner, I literally, because it's small, it's not like a daily planner, so I don't have that much
Okay.
room to write in it. So I put, R for read, M for meditate, S for silence,
Yeah.
10 minutes, P
Yeah.
for post, like posting on social media.
Nice.
So every day I do one of those things. If I read, if I post on social media,
Consistent action.
if I, yeah, but I literally created one that's S for silence because I'm making it a practice of my own. And this was before I actually started reading the book. So it's kind of cool that I was on the right track. Like, we need silence, we need time away from stuff
We
being fed
gotta
into our brain.
we gotta wind this down and finish this. But before we do, I want to tell you how much I can relate to that. We lived on the beach, and I got up every morning. I would walk the beach, and I used it as my quiet time. And oh my God, the stuff that came from those away from everything, no headset, but
Yes.
just the beach and the breeze, and just no people, just early morning walks.
Yep. So that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that you'll maybe listen to this, shut it off,
Yeah,
shut your radio off if you're driving home. Just think while you're driving. Just think about what's happening in your business, what's happening in your life. What do you want to change? Hopefully you've got maybe an idea or an insight off of what we talked about. And you can think about how could you raise your value in your business? How could you connect with your customers at a deeper level? How could you answer your phones better than what you currently do? How could you run a better service call, a better sales process, do a better installation? All of those things. Think about it, because thinking is the highest paid skill there is. You'll make the most money when you sit and think.
Unless you're an HVAC business consultant, and then you're screwed.
Right.
So,
So anyhow, it's been fun. Great job tonight, Pete. I think it was a good episode, and hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you on the next one.
see you guys.